Okay, mic is on. That took too long to find out. So this is what if Deku had the boosted gear. You might be wondering why the picture that is on the screen is on the screen. I'll get to that. But right now I'm chilling at about 82 subscribers, I think. The last time I checked it was 82. And I'm just recording this in advance so that as soon as it's, as soon as I see it hit 100, see the subscribers on this channel hit 100, I could just immediately upload it. So yeah. So it's not like I'm gonna wait till 100, so I'm not waiting till 100 subscribers to record this. Plus, I need to get the idea out of my head and into a video. So who knows how long it's gonna be chilling on my phone for while I wait to reach 100 subscribers. Anyway, backstory. Because there will need to be backstory. I'm gonna give you backstory on this character. This is the Dragon God of Destruction. He will be the most powerful being in this world. It's more powerful than God was before he died. Oh, high school DxD spoilers, in case it wasn't obvious, both for anime and light novel. So yeah, and those start now. Those start in this video. There will be a ton of light novel spoilers that haven't been in the anime yet. I'm not gonna spoil any, character development. It's more just lore in the series that's going to be spoiled for you, which I don't know if you care about those kind of spoilers. I personally don't care about those spoilers. I care about, character development and character deaths. Other than that, I don't care if I'm spoiled. If anything's spoiled, because I'm going to find out about it one way or another. So yeah, don't want spoilers, but you still want to see the video, read the light novel. Or just watch the anime and then not care about light novel spoilers. But I think it'd be better for you to read the light novel. Unless you don't like reading ecchi scenes. I personally just skipped over those ones, except for the ones that were actually funny, which were a lot of them. Because I find girls fighting over the same guy funny. Which is why I like Harem so much. It's always funny. Several girls fighting over one guy, it's always hilarious. But moving on. A lot of spoilers coming up for the light novel. So some pretty big plot ones too, possibly. Well, I'll be explaining how the devil race was created, or how Lucifer created the devil race, which is technically a pretty big plot point. But I'm not going to be explaining any of the plot that makes it a plot point. So, kind of and kind of not. Anyway, back to this person's backstory. I'm gonna skim over this. This is an OC that I created. He no longer has a name. It's just Dragon God of Destruction. That's all he calls himself now. But at the beginning, he did have a name in which I don't have for you, because it's like I'm skimming over this. If you want his name, like, in all this lore for this OC, I'll give it to you in a separate video, and that's only if you want it, because I don't really feel like going over it. But if you want it, I'll do it. But if you don't want it, well, I don't want to do it either. So we're good. But yeah. Oh shit, there's something in my eye. Okay. Well, it ain't coming out, so I guess it's staying there. Well, my eyelashes, I should say. It's something in my eyelashes. Ugh. So yeah. Anyway, so this character, what happened was he was born a human. Now I know what you're thinking, a human, but he's a direct god of destruction. We'll get there. I'm skimming over this, remember? He was born as a human with the power of destruction in his universe, which is a different universe to the high school DxD universe. So, you know, he does what he does. He goes on with life. Dragons kill his entire family except for his best friend slash crush, who he managed to save before watching his entire village and family burn to the ground. Because this was a world that was more or less ruled and protected by dragons. It's like kind of like in Fairy Tale, where some of the dragons were good and wanted to protect humans, but then some of the dragons were bad and wanted to use humans as slaves and meals and whatnot. And so yeah, that's kind of just how things went in this world. And so eventually he's trained up his power of destruction to control an immense amount of it, to the point where even the gods are frightened of him, because his power of destruction is many times greater than, you know, it's like he's on par with the strongest of gods in this world, if not stronger, is what the gods are thinking. He's definitely stronger, but the gods are thinking that they're still, you know, pretty powerful. They think they're on par. They're not. So yeah, and they've tried to kill this kid over and over again, but they continuously fail. So eventually one day he fused his soul with a dragon in order to, you know, become more powerful. And in doing so, his body became that of a dragon. So he can turn into human form, but this is his dragon form. This is the form that he has most of the time. This is his dragon form. His dragon of destruction form. And he didn't just fuse his soul with any dragon. No, he killed a dragon king, which is like this, like the highest, this, like, considered the strongest dragon, and he fused his, like, soul with that dragon, making him even more powerful, while simultaneously still having, making him have the power of a dragon, while, still containing complete control, so the dragon's soul, didn't have any control over him. So now he has control over the dragon's body and powers, as well as his own power of destruction. And in doing so, he exterminates the dragon race, except for the dragons that he sees protecting people. Because when he fused his soul with this dragon, he saw all of the dragons, the good ones and the bad ones. So he decided to let the good ones live because they hadn't done anything wrong. He was only going to kill the ones who saw humanity as less than, saw them as, meal or slaves or whatnot. He only killed those ones. And so life continued on like this until, eventually he got married to this undisclosed love of his childhood crush. The gods decided, well, since we can't, kill him, let's make him suffer internally because they're idiots. So all 600 of the 601 gods decided to join together and create, a powerful seal. Now, let me explain just how powerful these gods are. The weakest of these gods has the strength of a chief god, which is the strongest god in a mythological pantheon. So like Odin, Zeus, those, like anyone else you can think of that's the main god of some mythology, he's like the weakest god is stronger than that. So like the strong, and keep in mind, Izuku's stronger than the gods, than all 600 of those gods put together. You'll see why I say that in a minute. So the gods do this on a curse. They go making an immortality curse that he will never be able to break even with his power of destruction. And that's just for plot reasons. It takes them several years to do so. Now, let's flash back to a fight they had with him in his dragon form. This crimson aura of destruction just constantly coating his draconic form. They couldn't damage him at all. This aura just protected him. Any attacks that they threw at him just were destroyed before they could even reach his scales, let alone his hide. Which, in case you didn't know, those are two different things. They have scales on top of their hide. Dragons have scales on top of their hide. At least I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So they have two layers of armor, basically. Because their hide is like their skin, but you should know that much already. So they couldn't even do that. However, they found out during one of those fights that the god of creation could cancel out his power of destruction slightly, like in small areas. However, any damage that they were able to do to him in that short period of time when the god of creation canceled out his power of destruction, for a short period of time, they were able to, do damage. However, he then used his power of destruction to destroy time and space, sealing the wound back up as if it had never happened in the first place. Now you're starting to see why he's so overpowered. He figured out how to use his power of destruction to turn back time, to go into the future, to go into the past, to go into whatever time he wanted. At least, that's what he thought. But sometimes there's a curse that prevents that. A curse that took several years to develop. A curse created by 600 gods. Now I should mention there's one singular goddess. That one singular goddess that did not partake in this. That goddess unbeknownst to the dragon god of destruction, or should I say future dragon god of destruction's knowledge, was his wife. His wife was the incarnation of this goddess of knowledge. Then there was the goddess of knowledge's archangel, who was said to be stronger, or rather just as strong as the chief god in their pantheon. So he was he was an archangel that was as strong as their god. Like the strongest god there, this archangel was as strong as him, but he wasn't considered a god yet. He was going to enter godhood, but he wasn't a god yet. And it was at this time that he was about to become a god in like a month, when the gods put their plan into action. The goddess of knowledge continuously tried to dissuade them from doing so, but she never succeeded. And so she took the archangel and herself and went to another dimension. That archangel that was going to gain godhood, they went to another dimension. Stayed completely out of that universe. For the goddess of knowledge knew what was going to happen. The goddess of knowledge knew what was going to happen, and the gods were willing to take that risk. The goddess of knowledge tried to tell them that it's not a risk, it's 100% accurate, it's going to happen, but they didn't believe her. But the archangel that followed her did. The archangel then achieved godhood in that universe, which will come into play later. You'll see. As this continues, the gods then send the curse onto the Dragon King of Destruction. Because right now he's the Dragon King of Destruction. That's what he's called at this point in time. And he's just hanging out with his family, smiling, with his wife and his son, who's part dragon because, the whole... You know what I mean. And the curse hits him. He becomes immortal. He feels it. He knows what's happening as he watches both his son and his wife, or the incarnation of his wife, turn to dust. Obviously, the real her doesn't die. She's in another dimension. Just the mortal incarnation of her dies, which she senses, which she knows what's going to happen next. He goes into a fit of rage. A rage so uncontrollable that he destroys the entire universe. He lost all control of his power of destruction, and everything was destroyed. The gods, the souls of the dead, the living, the souls of the living, hell itself, the demons in hell, everything tied to this universe, completely destroyed. Leaving a dimensional gap. A gap in between the dimensions where almost no life could ever exist. It wasn't a god. But here's the thing. Why is he called the Dragon God of Destruction? It's because in this universe, if you kill a god, which technically he just killed 600 of them, you take on the powers and abilities of said god. So yes, he's even more overpowered than he was before. He now has all the abilities of all 600 gods. He has the ability to create and destroy, to heal and to harm, to revive and to kill. The power of fire and water, and everything else that you can think of. And he immediately is regretful. Because none of those people deserved to die. None of those people can be brought back. He tries going back in time, but he can't. The curse isn't letting him go back to a time before his, wife died. And right after his wife died was the fit of rage that destroyed everything. Like, it was instantaneous after. There was not even a second, and it killed everyone. Everyone was dead. It's gone. And he can't do anything about it. So he decided that he would learn to control his emotions, his power, his anger. So for 33 billion years, at least to him it was 33 billion years, he trained to master all of his abilities, to master his emotions, so that something like that would never happen again. And then he felt it, and in the last 100 years, he felt a disturbance in this dimensional gap. He didn't know what it was yet. But he thought, it's whatever. It's not bothering me, so I'm not going to bother with it. So he tried to do something this time. He created 2 dragons. One would eventually be known as the strongest dragon in existence, Great Red. The other was a jet black and would be known as the jet black dragon, god of infinity. One created from the infinite, the other created from, nothing. Dreams, maybe? Who knows? If I remember correctly, Orpheus was made out of, everything, and then Great Red was made out of nothing, I'm pretty sure. But whatever. So yeah, there's that. So there's that. What am I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, right. So anyway, he trains these 2 in how to use their abilities. Orpheus is extremely attached to him. Like a child who lost their parents and then found someone else to take care of them. Do I want to use this comparison? Yeah, I do. Yeah, like Eri is with Izuku. That's basically how Orpheus is with, our dragon god of destruction here. So yeah, that's how it is. Orpheus is female from the beginning. She can make herself look like a male, but she's female. Great Red is male. Because as far as I know, that's canon. Anyway, moving on. So he trains them, and then for 1,000 years. So 1,000 years have passed, and this disturbance has become permanent. And at this moment, the disturbance became permanent. Something had permanently changed inside the dimensional gap. And he wanted to see what it was. So he went, and he found that out of this dimensional gap, out of this nothingness that he created when he destroyed his universe, another universe took form. one created by that archangel that survived. That archangel that went to another universe with the goddess of knowledge. That archangel that obtained godhood in that other universe came back and created a new world. His world. And called himself the one true God. Now things continue on to canon. And then fallen angels, appear, devils, blah 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 blah. No. Izuku isn't born yet, but our dragon god of destruction continues creating more and more dragons until eventually other gods from mythologies that have sprung up also learn how to create dragons. It's like Crom Crunch, for example. But he's getting tired of this whole three-way war between angels, fallen angels, and devils. However, he makes the same deal that... What was his name? The Meteor Dragon King. He's one of the Dragon Kings. He's the Dragon King that trained Issei in the canon. Made a deal of some kind, if I remember correctly, that he would become a devil and in order to have some fields. So Izuku makes the same deal, but with a different price. Sorry, not Izuku. I don't have a name for him, so I'm just calling him Izuku, but that's not who he is. The Dragon God of Destruction makes a different deal, with a different price. I'm sorry if I'm confusing you by accidentally saying Izuku over and over again, but as the Dragon God of Destruction makes a different deal, well, he goes to Lucifer himself. There are only 4 devils at this point, and then there's Lilith, which is Lucifer's wife. At this point, we're getting into how devils are created, so if you want to, kind of skip this, or pause the video, and then, come back later, once you have already found out, you go and do that, but it's probably going to be a while until it comes in the anime, so just saying. If you haven't left yet, I'm assuming you're okay with spoilers, or you already know. Anyway, so at this point, Lucifer is already using Lilith's body to create new devils. You heard right. For all those of you who did not know, Lucifer used his own wife's body to create new devils. So, the Dragon God of Destruction says, I'll give you my power. In order for you to create another devil, I don't care. But my people, dragons, are dying because they don't have the proper food to survive. He's in human form while he says this. So I'll give you a fraction of my power of destruction for you to create a devil with a very high amount of power, with the power to create a devil with the power of destruction. My power of destruction. And in turn, you give me the fields that grow fruits that can only grow here in hell, so that my draconic lineage can survive. And such the deal is struck. A small fraction, the smallest of small fractions, of the Dragon God of Destruction's power is given to Lilith, and then Lucifer then creates the first ancestor of the Baal family. who has the power of destruction. And that's how the Bale family gets their power of destruction. It comes from the dragon god of destruction. Now you see why this OC is so important to the intricacy that is the lore of this series. Now by this time, he's already had interactions with the god and realized that he was the archangel of their original world. Of course, God forgives him because, it wasn't his fault. The other gods were being stupid. And even though warned time and time again that it would mean the destruction of the entire universe, they continued forward with their plan. So, anyway, what happens is everything continues on to canon, except the Dragon God of Destruction creates both Dreg y Gerush, which is Dreg's real name, and then he also creates... I really should have looked up his name. So I'm just going to go with Albion, because I'm pretty sure that was his name, but it's not his full name, but I'm pretty sure that's the name he uses. And then he creates Albion, the red dragon emperor and the white dragon emperor, or rather, the two dragons that will be it. As he holds both of them up to the sky, and he says, in his human form, "You two will be the ones to end this three-way war." As he created them in order to fight each other, in order to get the three factions that were so very annoying to him to stop fighting, even if only for a bit, so that they can take out the two dragons. He knew that these two dragons would then have their souls placed in sacred gears created by, God. But here's the other thing. The Dragon God of Destruction no longer needed the ability to create things. No longer needed the power of the God of Creation. So he talked to the former Archangel, to God, to the now God. And he says to him, "If I give you the power of the God of Creation, do you think you could create another sacred gear with it? I'd quite like to see where it goes, where it leads." And so he does. He creates a sacred gear with this. This next sacred gear that he creates is, not that strong at first, but eventually it will become Longinus class, as it is the essence of a god in a sacred gear. So, that happened. He also gives him the power of the god, the power of the god of sound, which, focuses on hearing and then sending out sound waves, which he can do naturally already because of his loud bellowing roar and just having excellent hearing. So he didn't really need it, so he gave that to him as well. I think you see where I'm going with this. If you don't, you need to check the class. You need to check what the girls' quirks are in, My Hero. because you obviously don't know what they're capable of. He also gives up the power of the god of gravity because he doesn't see any point in it, really. Like, well, what's the point? Oh, cool, I can manipulate gravity. Oh, I can fucking fly. I don't need to manipulate gravity. At least that's how he's thinking about it. Because he could just emit pressure that forces people to bow down to him, so... does he really need gravity when he could already make people fall onto the floor with sheer, freaking aura? Yeah, I don't think so. And to put something in perspective to you, if you understand how powerful Great Red is, this Dragon God of Destruction, even without any of the power of the 600 gods, is at least 100 times stronger than Great Red. He destroyed an entire universe, for crying out loud. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's at least 100 times stronger. Like, he could literally just use his power of destruction to kill Great Red outright if he really wanted to. Anyway. So, that's the thing. So he gives away, the power of gravity. I'll just have some legendary frog also be turned into a sacred gear. We'll talk about that later. We all know where this is going. We all know where that one's going. There's also an acid dragon who was one of the dragon kings. So there's not 5 dragon kings, there's 6. I think there was 5 in the canon, but there's 6 in this one, and one of them was turned into a sacred gear. Who else am I missing? Give me a minute. Give me a minute, guys. Is it literally just... Is it just her? Is it just Toru? Is Toru the only one I'm missing? I think Toru is the only one that's missing. Because I got 5 and there's 6 girls in class 1A. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what to do with for that one, but we'll say that somehow, some way, that I'll come up with later. There's some sort of beast that can reflect light, which allows her to turn invisible at will. Moving on to the next one. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna. I'm not gonna add any 1B girls. Unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. Sorry, guys, no 1B girls. Maybe if there's enough, support on this, saying, "Oh, add a certain 1B girl," or one or two 1B girls to the series, then maybe, but at this point they're just gonna be cannon fodder. Not cannon fodder, no. At this point they're just gonna be harem fodder. Like, the 1A girls are just freaking, harem fodder at this point. Because in this story, most of the harem is gonna be, the high school DxD girls. I'm just throwing the girls from My Hero in there for, the harem. And, to keep it more realistic to the he's being reincarnated into a different world, but it still has the same people in it, kind of, but there's also different people. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so all these sacred gears are created, blah, 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 blah. The whole thing happens, canon, God dies. Oops, spoilers. Oh, I thought I already mentioned that. And, yeah. But something that happened during that whole time skip thing is, during the Edo period, I think it is. I think the Edo period was the time of the samurai. At the beginning of the Edo period, he found a love interest. He didn't love this person as much as he did, his wife, because he thinks his wife's dead, like long since dead, even though she's actually not. But it's not like she ever did anything to say, like, oh, I'm your wife, I'm still alive, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of her fault that he's having sex with another woman. So, he falls in love with this other person, obviously not as hard as he did for his first love, but he does fall in love with her. Her last name is Midoriya. He doesn't have a last name. He doesn't remember what his last name is. He doesn't even remember what his first name is. He just calls himself the Dragon God of Destruction. So, she kind of just, goes along with it, thinks it's just a nickname or something, and because he's a great warrior or something. And they have a kid. They have 2 kids. 2 sons, in fact. Both of them take their mother's last name, Midoriya. You see where I'm going with this? And become 2 of the greatest heroes of legend. 2 of the greatest samurais of legend. So much so that legends are still told about them today. However, the bloodline has diminished so much that that power, that raw power that his 2 sons had, that the Dragon God of Destruction's 2 sons had, has dwindled over time. It's still there, it's just not there at birth. Because, let's be honest, those 2 sons he had are demigods. But the bloodline slowly became more and more and more human. So now it takes actual training in order for them to, obtain that power. Obtain, the power of a demigod. Because I don't care how little amount of God there is by the time Izuku comes around. He's going to be training, and he will eventually become a demigod with more power than an actual, chief god of this world. Like, he'll still be as strong as, the chief gods of any, of any mythology. He'll be that strong, as long as he trains to become that strong. So, the Midoriya family was, once, really prestigious, and, upheld for the, having the strongest samurais, come from them, not realizing that they were freaking demigods. And eventually we get to Hisashi Midoriya, which then marries Inko, who then becomes Inko Midoriya. And they live in the same place that Issei's family did. They, live in the same house that Issei's family did, just because it makes it easier for all of this to be the same. Now that we're done with the lore, let's get into Izuku. So, now Izuku is born. And he's born with an insane, an intense sense of, how do I put this? It's like, you fuck with me, I fuck with you. You're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. It's like, if you deserve respect, I'll give you respect. If you don't deserve respect, you get my foot in your face. Like, if you don't deserve respect, you can lick my boot. So it's like, I know when to fuck you up, and I know when to be nice. So as long as you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. Golden rule, basically. So it's like, that's basically what he's went with. So like, and since he had that kind of a mindset, he knew that he couldn't just like go around like punch people in the face. No, he started training. By the age of 4, he's lifting weights. He's lifting like 20-pound weights when he's 4 years old, because again, still kind of a demigod. Even though it's like really small amounts, he's still like stronger than an average human being at birth. By the time he's 8, he realized his body is physically fit enough for him to unlock twice critical. So he has twice critical. And he's just like, watching an anime, and he's like kind of mimicking one of their moves as twice critical, appears on his hand while he's doing it. And he's kind of surprised, but he kind of like, and he screams, and his parents come in, but he made it disappear before they came in, and they're like, oh, what is it? It's like, I thought I saw a spider. And they both facepalm. He's lying, of course, we all know this, but they believe him because they're gullible. So anyway, he starts training with that as well, and I'm just skimming over a lot of it. He does, by the age of 10, he's a magic whiz. During those 2 years, he'd already learned how to use some magic, but now he's like mastered it. And so it's like fire magic, destructive forms of magic, fire magic, ice magic, lightning magic, all the kind of stuff. He knows how to add holy elements and dark elements to it. Dark elements for angels and fallen angels, and holy elements for fallen angels and devils. Because he knows they exist. Because at the age of 10, he's already unlocked. He's already gone from twice critical back to the boosted gear, not back to the boosted gear, but to the boosted gear, and he's been talking with Dreg, in meditative states, and in his sleep from time to time. So he already knows what he's doing, and he already knows how all of this works. And so now he's like he's already like mastered magic, and he's starting to create more magic. Again, he's a very physically built person, even at the age of 10, and he's unlocked some of his dragon abilities. Like, he can make dragon wings come out of his back. He can turn his eyes and ears into that of a dragon, so that he can hear and see so much better. And Drake explains to him, actually, you know what? Drake wouldn't know. Drake doesn't understand, because he was never really raised by the Dragon God of Destruction. He doesn't know anything about the Dragon God of Destruction. He just knows that the dragons that actually did raise him told him that he just appeared in his nest one day. they just appeared in that he just appeared in their nest one day, because that's what happened. He kind of just teleported the eggs to random nests, which those dragons then raised, the two Albion and Drake. So Drake doesn't know anything about it. He does know about the dragon god of destruction, because he's like the one who created most of the dragon race. And he can tell, like, the power coming off of him is, similar to that of the dragon god of destruction, based on, the scales that have this, like, magma-essent glow in between them, and the wings that are black on the back and red, red-orange on the inside. Based on, like, those features, he can kind of tell that he's probably, like, somewhat related to the dragon god of destruction, which he found very surprising, because that would mean the dragon god of destruction had a child with a human at one point. Which they go back into, they'd go into history books. For the next 2 years they spend looking in. So at the end of this, he'll be 12. So they're spending this entire time looking into the history, also doing other types of training, but mainly looking into the history of the Midoriya family, because it was known as a samurai clan at one point. It's now a disgraced samurai clan, since they are all, found to be weak after so long. After the bloodline got quote-unquote diluted, or whatever. It was tainted somehow. That's what they said. So what happened next was they, found out about the ancestor that started it all. The male person who called himself the dragon god of destruction, which all the humans of the world just shrugged off. But Izuku and Drake were both like, what the actual... He just called himself the dragon god of destruction to humans, and they didn't give a shit? They just thought it was some nickname for some really powerful person. Which, technically speaking, they're not wrong. It's not like he just, went in and, like, did it. It's like they did test him to see if, it was just some nickname to make him think, to make people think he was powerful, or if it was actually powerful, in which case he just destroyed everything in his path, as his name suggested. Like, yep, okay, we believe him. So yeah, and how he had, kids who were like some of the strongest, who were like the strongest samurai in existence, like, ever. So they both found out about that. It took about 1.5 years of research, but they eventually found out. And they continued their training. Izuku is creating his own spells at this point. He's 12 years old. He's mastered all the actual spells, the damaging spells, not really the supportive spells. He learned healing spells up to, like, regenerating a limb, but not, like, reviving someone on the verge of death. Not, like, healing someone from the verge of death healing spells. But, he's gotten up to, like, regenerating a limb in a few seconds healing spells, because those are pretty useful. Because he thought they'd be useful, and he knows someday that, bringing someone back from the brink of death will probably be useful, so he's going to try and learn how to do that, but that's going to take a lot more time. so he's gonna, and he wants to try, creating his own spells, which eventually he does. He creates a spell which, by the time he's in his first year of high school, keep in mind, no one has figured out yet that he is powerful. Like, everyone, like, angels, fallen angels, devils, they all believe he's, just an ordinary person, except for the higher ups and the fallen angels who've created a device to track down, wielders of, sacred, of, Longinuses, the sacred gears, which there are currently 15 Longinus. Not 13 as there are in canon. There are 15. 2 of those being the power of the god of creation and the power of the god of sound, which were, given by the dragon god of destruction to God to create sacred gears out of them. How long have I been recording? Oh gosh, it's almost been an hour. Oh god, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, dang. Okay. And I'm not even feeling tired yet. Okay. It's probably because I'm doing this. But yeah. So, we now get to the point where the anime starts. Wait, did I say what the spell did? Okay, hold on. In case I forgot, because I don't think I said it yet, but he created a spell that has the symbol of the Red Dragon Emperor on it as his, the whole aesthetic to the spell. And it basically works like the slave crest from Shield Hero. Now, if you don't know where this is going, I'm not going to tell you where it's going. And you'll have to find out. And you'll find out soon, because it's going to happen soon. So, he's had time to practice with it. He can dispel it from someone at will if he wants to. So it's not like it's permanent, but if he wants it to be permanent, it will be permanent. So I think I'm gonna... Yeah. He would have also mastered the balance breaker. He wouldn't have anything other than this. So he'd have the balance breaker, but that's it. So he has a balance breaker. So he has this scale mail. But that's it. That's the highest, form he has. And he could hold the scale mail, from his estimations, for about 3 years without stopping. He's slightly learned how to use the power of destruction, but he's more of a person of control than of sheer power. While his power of destruction does have sheer raw power that could rival, Sir Zex, but he wants to be able to control it because Drake also told him the stories of the Dragon God of Destruction, destroying an entire universe because he couldn't control his power, and he doesn't want to be the person who annihilates an entire universe. Yeah, so we get to the beginning of the anime, and so he's pretty much gotten everything. He's gotten magic, he's gotten the boosted gear, he's gotten the balance breaker, he's gotten a slight bit of power of destruction, he's mastered the power of the dragon. He could turn into a full dragon at will if he really wanted to. And he could stay in his dragon form just as long, like probably twice as long even, as he can in his balance breaker state. So you could probably stay in his dragon form for like 5 to 6 years. If you really wanted to. In fact, he could probably stay in his dragon form permanently as long as he, slept and ate enough for, the size of the dragon. So yeah, we're at where the anime begins. So I am going to cut the video here, and well, you'll see this video as soon as I hit 100 subscribers. As soon as I see that I've hit 100 or past 100, if I miss the 100th subscriber, I'll post it immediately as soon as I realize that I've gotten to 100 or more. So, yeah. But you will have already known that. Can you just... Thank you.